Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of The Institute episodes 1 and 2, which are now on MGM Plus. I hope you're here if you watched my From reviews, or if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. I'm excited to talk about this one. I'm a big Stephen King fan, but I actually haven't read the book for The Institute, so no spoilers for the books here, please. But the cast intrigued me. I'm a fan of Ben Barnes and Mary-Louise Parker, and we see that the lead is Joe Freeman, who is actually Martin Freeman's son. In real life, when they filmed this, he was 18. The character he's playing is 14. The creator has said that the reason they did this was because the story goes into really messed up places that the kids have to go through in the story, so they didn't want to traumatize the actors. But I probably think another part of that is because it's just easier with all of the labor laws with using child actors compared to an adult and the hours they can work. I almost wish so they just changed the writing and made him in the story even 17. Just a little more believable than 14. Because he's a tall actor, he's got a deep voice, so it's a little harder to sell as a 14-year-old boy. But let's jump into my review now. Episode 1, we meet this boy genius, Luke, and his telekinetic abilities are first hinted at in the pizza shop, where he's able to move this tray, but he doesn't have full control of this. This leads him to being kidnapped. He wakes up in a replica of his room, and we see the Timberwolves jersey there because he's from Minneapolis. We saw him wearing that jersey, but he ripped it. And now he sees that there's no rip there, so he knows he is a different place. Now, it first was weird to me because he didn't seem very stunned or act like somebody who was just thrown into a different world and kidnapped. He seemed kind of chill and cool. But it's actually explained because he says to Sigsbee when she later on asks him about his demeanor that it won't do him any good to come off that way. So it's attributed to his smarts that he doesn't panic. So I'm happy they explain that. Now we also meet his new friend, Kalisha, and she reveals to him they are in Maine, which makes sense. This is a Stephen King story. That is Stephen King land. She asks him if he's TK or TP, and this is obviously telekinetic or telepathic, and she is TP, so it's different from what he is. She can read minds, but she's not advanced at it yet. Now, we meet Miss Sigsbee, who is Mary-Louise Parker from Weeds. She runs the joint. And then we see Dr. Hendricks is Henry from, so there's their From connection. Besides this also being directed by Jack Bender, who directed episodes of From and Lost, but we learn they are in the front half and that there's a back half when they graduate. And we'll see how Hendricks will mention how smart Luke is, and that maybe he should be used for this PC track. We don't know what this means. We won't find out what this means, but this is what Stackhouse will be alluding to later to Hendricks and pulling on him on that, and that they should go down that avenue with Luke. And they mention things like keyholes. Again, we don't know what this means. This is all part of the mystery. Now, why Kalisha kisses him right away, she asks him if he ever had chicken pox. This is explained because she hasn't seen the dots yet. She's trying to keep Luke from seeing it by getting him pox like hers, what I'm guessing, keeping him in the front half a little longer. Now, with Sigsbee, she tells Luke, your work is important, you're saving the world. It reminded me of Severance when they say the work is mysterious and important. She says, without our work, our world would cease to exist. So this is the whole part of it where they're saving the world. It's their end of justifying what they're doing. And they get these perks that they wouldn't get in the real world, like cigarettes and booze at their age. They say it's grown-up work, so they should be treated like grown-ups, but there's got to be another reason, too. They have that stuff lying around for them. I don't think they're just doing that out of the kindness of their hearts. But the big information, too, is that they wipe their memory at the end of their service. This is why people who've been there before haven't gone on to tell their tale. But I'm sure we'll meet a character at some point who is an adult who was there. Now, we'll meet other new characters in George and Iris. George is what we call TK positive. He can control his telekinetic powers. And we meet Nikki, who is the rebel of the group. He doesn't believe in any of this stuff, and he refuses to go along with any of it. And he also has a somewhat relationship with Kalisha, but she says they don't even know what it is because they've only known each other for so long, such a short time they've all been there. But you see, it's important that George warns Luke not to follow Nikki, that he says if you see the dots, say so, and if you don't say so, they know when we lie. So there's definitely been some serious punishment, which I'm guessing is going to with Nikki having his finger in a brace, that something happened to his finger of him rebelling. Now, what's crazy is we met this kid snatcher. This woman was the one who stole Luke. She was dating a journalist who ends up being someone who was working for Stackhouse. She sees that she was about to whistleblow and she shoots her in the back of the head. So that caught me completely by surprise. That was nuts. Meanwhile, Miss Sigsbee is dancing in her kitchen, making hot dogs and branding herself. And it seems like she's branding herself for the sensation of the feeling. So I wonder what that is all about. And that first episode and that side of the story ends with Ricky saying, we want out, we're going to have to get ourselves out. And he has that smart kid now he was always waiting for, which is Luke, to help him figure this out and how they do it. Now, before I rate that episode, let's talk everything going on with Tim, who's played by Ben Barnes. I am so used to Ben Barnes. Everything I've seen him in, he's been a villain. From first time I saw him was Westworld, then Punisher, then Shadow and Bone. So his face to me is implanted with like, this guy is up to no good now, I'm thinking, because that's how I've seen him in other shows. So this whole episode is actually waiting for something awful to be revealed about Tim, and it never came. So I'm like, okay, he's actually playing a good guy. I know he played Prince Caspian in Narnia, which I had never seen those movies. So I guess those people would be more used to this. So it took me by surprise, but now I'm in it. And I'm like, okay, Ben Barnes is playing a good guy. But he's a former Officer of the Year. What hurt him was his drinking in the end, but he's not drinking anymore. And we see this story where he knew a coworker, cop, was doing something wrong, that he was shooting a kid who wasn't actually shooting anybody. So it makes sense why he doesn't like to use guns and that he goes about things a little differently. But we see he's already showing signs of being a good person, definitely to be someone who helps out the kids in the Institute. He gets this job that's a night knocker, which I Googled, didn't know what it means. And then it looks like the book readers also Googled it, didn't know what it means. It's not really something that comes up in Google, but what I'm getting from the show, he's a nighttime patrolman who's basically checking all these doors at night that are important or locked. And he's developing this important relationship with this character who's Crazy Annie. And she's this conspiracy theorist. She knows details about his childhood, which we don't know how. But in shows like this, whoever's the crazy one is usually the one who's actually saying what's really going on. So in real life, it's not, but here it is. So you got to kind of listen to what she's saying because it's going to give a lot of hints, which we'll get more into in episode 2. But that's how they set up episode 1. I'm giving it an 8.2. I was intrigued. I'm not sure how I feel about the whole vibe of it. I feel like it could use a little more score under certain scenes. Some of it feels just empty. And I know even the Institute's supposed to feel empty, the actual setting, but it just feels a little off. You have all the AI posters everywhere, the AI soda machine art. It just feels a little weird, and it's not like fully gelling yet, but I see potential there. I am intrigued by the mystery. I mean, this is Stephen King, so I have faith in it. So let's go to episode 2. And we see Iris now is being sent to the back half. She's only been in the front for 13 days. And it's revealed that she actually has a crush on Nikki. So he's taking this hard too. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to her. Someone we've developed a little attachment to. And what's going to happen to her in the back half. And it just seems like the back half is really just a way more messed up version of where we are now. Now, we get another Lost connection where we have Frank Lapidus is the bigger boss. Right when I heard the phone voice, I was like, okay, here we go. But he's mad about this kitty snatcher failing. He's giving it to Sigsbee and Stackhouse. He has pictures on his desk of shaking Reagan's hand. He's got a rosary in his hand, so it seems like he's a religious conservative person. So we'll see how that ties into his character and him being painted right now as the big villain. And he's like, there's new keyholes coming up and we need more kids. Again, we don't know what these keyholes are, what he really means by this. But you see that Stackhouse and Sigsbee have tension. And this will lead on to later episodes we'll get to with Stackhouse doing things behind Sigsbee's back. Now, Luke has his first test, and he's trying to use his smarts to get in Dr. Hendricks' head, play on any guilt he might have about what they're doing. But Hendricks is like, the ends always justify the means in this situation. It's saving the world, literally. So we get these trippy sequences of Luke, from his perspective, waiting for the dots from the shots. But then he's eventually able to do some telekinesis. And we'll see that revealed later on that Hendricks' big goal is to get everyone to be using telepathy and awaken that in them. It seems like all the characters have TK and TP potential. They just have to get that out. That's the job of the Institute. Now, George went through this Dreambox sequence, which is the final test in the first half. They talk about it as it's your own personal horror movie, and if you get through it, you can go on to the next area. So we'll see how much longer George lasts. We learn that he's going to have another experience in the Dreambox, so I don't know, but I do like George a lot. He's been an interesting character and likable. But we get a scene also of Sigsbee and Hendricks in the toy room together, and she's like, did you take your pill? And he's like, do you have the jump rope? So I don't know what that's all about, but we know they're sleeping together, and there's even a moment where Stackhouse tells him that he shouldn't bring it up in pillow talk with him and Sigsbee, so he's walking home to Sigsbee at the end, so we'll see what that kind of relationship's like. It seems very transactional as well, so we'll see. But it also puts Hendricks in a weird spot because he believes in the philosophies of Stackhouse, but doesn't want to betray Sigsbee, especially if he has sexual relationship with her. Now, Luke's plan is to have someone now they need with strong TP powers so they can find out someone on the staff they can kind of break and bring to their side, a mole. While he's making this plan with Nikki, he also sees mysterious smoke coming from a building across the way, so we don't know what that's about. Love your theories on that, again, if you haven't read the books. And we also learned that the Dream Box has enhanced George's telekinetic powers, so he's now able to pull the coin out of the vending machine. But I'm afraid now, I'm thinking about it, that they're going to have George in his next one start to use and get out of him his TP powers and maybe use George against the new kid that's brought in, or use him to find the mole before they do. Now, Luke and Kalisha are starting to trust the worker Moraine, so it might be her. Now, Luke sees there's a new kid coming. He sees his room, but it was weird that he knew his name, where he was from. There must have been a part of that scene that was cut, because it felt so strange. Like, where did he get that information? We just saw him seeing a room being built for somebody. And I feel like that's the one thing, when you have the lead main character, we've seen most of the show through their perspective, we should have seen that, because it feels like we just got left out of the party in a way. Now, Stackhouse is revealed to have ulterior motives. There's these other parties that are involved that are offering money to use these type of kids for their powers, and especially one like a Luke who has the smarts as well with this PC potential they keep talking about, which you don't know what it means. So this is setting up that three-person conflict now between Stackhouse, the Doctor, and Sigsbee. So we'll see where that goes and how they handle Luke. And we learn more about Sigsbee, that her father was in the military. We could see in the photo behind her. She's on the phone with him. And she's also a third grade teacher. Or is she? And is she just making up what she's doing at the Institute as a regular teaching job to her father? Now, the big cliffhanger is the new kid arrives with this huge TP potential. So it's exactly what they needed. It has a very Severance type, hopeful cliffhanger episode too, like Severance would do whenever they had the group trying to rebel and figure out something that get them a next step. It did feel like that. And then even them talking to Frank Lapidus on the phone felt very Severance-y. There's a lot of little Severance-y feelings in the vibe too, besides the obvious things like Stranger Things and New Mutants. But I really feel a lot of things it's kind of probably influenced in its writing, but influenced visually now in its television show. Now let's go to everything with Tim. We see that Crazy Annie is trying to go to this woman who we learn lost her kid at these mysterious red steps that were forbidden, and a girl drowned there with a group. And she's trying to convince this woman it wasn't an accident. So what does that all mean, these red steps? I don't know, but you gotta believe the crazy person in a Stephen King story, so it definitely wasn't an accident. She also says about the other cop, they look just like us except for toes. You gotta look at the pinky toes. They are bent all funny, so is that alluding to that there's some supernatural type of being in this conspiracy in this show somewhere behind the Institute? Who knows, but I think there will be now. And then finally, Annie hints to Tim for a minute about the Institute, because now at this point I'm like, okay, when are we going to connect Tim to the main story? Because he feels so distant at this point. That was happening, but then it's interrupted by gunshots. So he runs to the gas station. He sees the two men that he was warned about. And remember, he rejected taking a gun, so he's handling the situation without a gun. And he sees the clerk he made friends with was shot, but he's going to be okay. But to me, already I feel like Tim's story is dragging along compared to the main story, and they got to kind of move it along a bit now with 2 episodes just to get him towards the Institute direction, because a lot of Tim's story I'm kind of like, okay, like, and, you know what I mean? So I think that kind of brought this episode score down a little bit for me, or I thought it'd be a little more on with that with Tim's connections to the Institute by now. But overall, still good, a little of a downgrade from episode 1, but I still am enjoying what's going on. I'm still intrigued in the mystery of it, which is the most important thing for a show like this. But I do hope it picks up a little bit more. And again, still feels a little empty. Feel like there should be more score in this, a little more weight to it, more tension built through the music, which isn't really happening that much. But I'm going to give this one a 7.7. Now, I'd love to hear your theories on this, but please, if you've read the books, no book spoilers. And if you read the books, what you think maybe the show so far compared to the books, that would be kind of cool. And if you could follow me on Instagram at Steve Varley Show, that would be huge. It'd help me in so many ways you have no idea. I do movie reviews there. I do funny memes, all fun stuff like that. And if you could subscribe here so you don't miss one of my reviews of The Institute. I'm also reviewing Smoke at the moment as well. I'll see you next time.